Hello, friends. Welcome to the 16th episode of the Schoolyard Podcast, brought to you by School Specialty. I'm your host, Nancy Chung, a fun-loving teacher and content creator, also known as Fancy Nancy in Fifth on social media, and I'm thrilled that you're here. A special shout out to School Specialty, who offers essential educational supplies and complete learning environment solutions to help you transform more than classrooms. School Specialty is excited to introduce Schoolyard Connect, a new site where educators can go to find helpful resources, including blogs, webinars, case studies, sample lesson plans, and more. Go to the site that's made for educators like you, schoolspecialty.com/schoolyard-connect. This is the Schoolyard Podcast, a podcast by educators for educators where the magic of learning unfolds. In the vibrant tapestry of education, neurodivergent students and teachers contribute unique threads that weave a rich and diverse learning experience for all. Imagine a classroom where creativity knows no bounds, where unconventional thinking is not just embraced but celebrated. Neurodivergence, encompassing conditions such as ADHD, autism, dyslexia, and more, is not a hindrance, but a colorful palette that adds depth to the educational canvas. Students with diverse minds offer innovative perspectives, solving problems in ways that transcend the ordinary, while neurodivergent educators bring a dynamic energy to teaching, fostering an inclusive environment where every learner can flourish. Together, they redefine the conventional norms of education, turning classrooms into spaces where differences are valued and the beauty of neurodiversity shines through in the shared journey of learning and growth. In today's episode, we'll be talking to Nichole Schlagel-Hope, current principal of the Academy of Arts and Knowledge, also known as AAK, with 4 years of leadership, focuses on tailoring curriculum enhancements for diverse learning needs. Her qualifications include a bachelor's in elementary and special education, a master's in human resources and educational leadership, and an additional master's in curriculum and instruction, trauma and resilience in educational settings. With extensive teaching experience across various educational settings, she's committed to fostering inclusive learning environments for student success. Welcome to the Schoolyard, Nichole.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. Would you please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Absolutely. So currently I am the administrator at the Academy of Arts and Knowledge. We are a pre-K through 5th grade public charter school in Fort Collins, Colorado. Prior to that, I've done a little bit of everything in education. I've taught K through 12, general ed, special education in many different environments, as well as alternative education settings. And I've been an assistant principal and also a principal in the elementary settings. So,
wow. So many hats.
Yeah.
You've worn all the hats. Well, thank you so much. Kudos to you. So for anyone who may not be familiar with the term, could you please share what neurodiversity is?
For me, it is just that inclusive term of students within the special education realm. So it's students who are just thinking differently, that bringing that creativity, innovation, diversity into our educational world. Students who just need maybe something a little bit different, approach education different, who just need maybe that little something extra to approach those educational standards for achievement.
Got it. Can you share a story about a moment when you realized the value of neurodiversity, either as a teacher or a principal or even as a student, and how did that understanding change the way you approach learning or teaching?
Yeah, I don't know if I realized it at the time, but definitely reflecting over my career, it was in the early 2000s. I was teaching special education in an alternative setting. It was in a high school setting, kind of that last step for students before there was kind of no place else.
Mm-hmm.
Behavior wise, they've kind of gone through it all. And getting to know those students, building relationships with them, they could all tell me the exact like moment, class, teacher,
Mm-hmm.
when kind of the wheels fell off, when they became disengaged, when something happened where
Mm-hmm.
school changed for them,
Mm-hmm.
and like when they stopped trying,
Right.
when they just were not connected anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at that point in time, it's like, we need to do better. Like they
Mm,
were telling us something as educators, we weren't listening.
right.
And I took that moment with me as I moved on in my career, as I went back into the classroom in an elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
And from then on, it was like, we need to do something different. We need
Mm-hmm.
to listen to students as individuals. We need to create those environments that are speaking to students. We need to, do the scaffolding. And that's when education, even as a whole, was really changing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, this was many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But as like I was growing as an educator, education was really growing and progressing. I think I started doing some of those things even before it was really catching on.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back at my classroom and it was really diverse. I mean, I had tons of flexible seating before flexible seating
Oh,
was
yeah.
a thing.
Uh-huh. Right, right.
And it just came from like building that relationship and just really listening to and watching what did they need. You
Uh-huh.
know, if they were standing all the time, why am I trying to make them sit?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just let them stand.
Right.
Like
If
give
they're
them a desk. Yeah, let them stand.
yeah.
They're engaged. They're
Uh-huh.
cognitively engaged. That's what we want. And
Right.
so for me, like that's when it changed. So
Mm-hmm.
and I kept that with me even going into administration.
Wow. And to think that for all those years, because if you've had them in high school, like for all those years, those kids probably just sat in the classroom feeling misunderstood or, like, I mean, and I feel like if, as long as they're quiet, teachers will leave them alone, right?
Mhm.
And so maybe they just slip through the cracks all those years. So thank you for listening to, to what they had to share and really seeing them. Oh gosh, I would love to hear some of those stories of like, that moment, like you said, there were some like the common grounds of like every child and their story of when they decided, you know what, school's not for me. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like, oh gosh, that's really sad. I'm sure you've been in so many different classrooms at all age groups. What's a creative way people have adapted their older ways of thinking about neurodiversity, kind of like the stigma of neurodiversity, to make sure all students, regardless of um, how neurodivergent they are, feel engaged and supported in the classroom?
I think the classrooms where I see it the most and the ones that are the most successful are the ones that just kind of let go of like what is the average classroom? Because if you're just creating an average classroom or an average lesson plan, you're really not going to reach anyone.
Hmm.
Like no one's average.
Like the
So just
normal, right? The quote
yeah.
unquote normal. Hmm.
So if you're thinking like if I can reach like the very hardest student, even like towards behavior, or like who do I need to like scaffold my lesson to tailor it to the most? Like if you're like pushing out those boundaries, then I mean you're gonna get everyone in between.
Mm-hmm.
And so the teachers who are willing to really do that and who are listening to those kiddos who are just really, willing to have a desk, you know, that is like maybe on the ground and that environment that looks completely different. Or the kid that's walking around and then the lesson that has and the markers where they can just write on their desks, don't even have the transition time of getting out a whiteboard.
Hmm.
Like why waste that time? Just have the marker, have them write on the desk. They wipe right up. Like it's
Hmm.
fine. Like make those notes right there. And then you're saving that transition time for someone, with executive functioning that it's going to be harder to pull them right back in. You've just saved all that time for them and you've kept them engaged. So
Right.
I feel like just the one teachers who just kind of let go
Hmm.
of what is kind of that norm or what they feel is the norm and just watch their class pay attention to those relationships and
Mm-hmm.
build off of that, that's where the most success and the most, where I see the most creativity come from.
Great. And you mentioned flexible seating. So what's kind of like the craziest or like the oddest, flexible seating that you've seen in a classroom?
A
Like
podium in the back.
Oh,
Got the podium from
uh-huh.
the cafeteria auditorium, kind of, because they wanted to stand the entire time, and it was like all we could find, and it was like, fine, you get the podium. And
Wow.
they loved it, like they get their
Uh-huh.
podium, and they like organized everything in the
That's
inside the
great.
podium, and they stood back there, and it worked. So whatever works, whatever is going to keep them cognitively engaged, that's our goal. Like, we don't want compliance, we want cognitive engagement. So, I mean, that should be the focus.
Exactly. I think every year that I teach, like this is my 27th year of teaching, but I learn something new every year and even throughout the year too. And in my earlier stages of teaching, I used to want all the students to kind of conform to the traditional way of sitting, traditional way of working. They had to, work very quietly, sitting a certain way at a certain desk, arranged a certain way. But I am learning every day that I get more out of students when I do let them stand, or I do let them sit on a beanbag with a lap desk, so I'm learning to let go of a lot of those old ways and trying new things. And like you said, listening to the students and watching what works and and watching what doesn't work. And I used to always tell kids when I'm reading something or when I'm talking, they had to fully focus on me and not doodle and not do all the and fidget, do all those things. But then, I was contradicting myself because when I listen to like long lectures or sermons, I have to sit there and doodle in order for me to like fully focus and concentrate. I'm like, oh, I'm being a hypocrite if I don't let my students do what I need to do to focus too.
Right.
So it's making those adjustments too and trying. It's okay to let go of the control and let students be and learn in their natural way, like the best effective way of learning and being engaged. It's hard.
Exactly.
It's
Well,
hard.
and if you watch teachers in a professional development situation, I mean,
Yes,
look around,
exactly.
and
Um,
there is not a teacher in there doing what they
right.
truly would typically expect their students to be doing. And
Uh-huh.
I think that's a really great learning experience. And
Right.
I think that's where there's needs to be a shift for leadership in schools as well, because
Absolutely.
teachers need to feel really comfortable and confident
Hmm.
that their classrooms can look like that, and their classrooms can be noisy,
Hmm.
and like somebody can walk past and it should be messy. Like, there should be stuff out, like dust should be around, the kids should be on the floor standing up or walking around. I mean, that means students are fully engaged into what they're doing.
Right.
If I walk past and everybody is just sitting in a desk and it is completely quiet and it's in a row, I'm going to do a double take. Like, it better be matching exactly that purpose for that specific lesson, like
Uh-huh.
what's happening. But teachers need to feel very confident in that, and they need to feel very supported in that. And that absolutely comes from leadership. They need to know that, they are going to try some things, and it's not always going to work for every single group.
Hmm.
And that's fine.
Hmm.
Try it. If it's not working, then readjust. Get to know your group, and it's going to look different every year, and it's going to look different at different times throughout the year,
Hmm.
but that's okay. And so I think there needs still that shift is still coming, and
Yes.
that
Uh-huh.
shift is in the growing process with some growing pains within leadership.
Hmm. Absolutely agree. And that whole support and just building that community and that culture, accepting differences, and so this kind of goes straight, like very smoothly into my next question, which is talking about sense of support. Let's say there's a teacher who wants to try all these different things to meet the needs of their neurodivergent students, but they have a teammate who is kind of saying, no, that's not what we do at our school, or that's not what we do on our grade level. Like, you could have some resistance there. Or if the teacher wants to try all these things, but the administration says, no, that won't work, or or other way around. If the principal wants the teachers to try all these things and there's no support, like that could be really difficult. Now,
Mhm.
think back to a time when you felt a strong sense of support from your colleagues, your school community. How can we encourage more of these supportive moments for not just the neurodivergent students, but teachers as well? What have you done as a principal to encourage this support?
For me, it's always goes back to when I was in the classroom, good or bad. I think probably leadership probably had varying opinions on it. I was going to do what was best for kids. And so, like, if I knew it was going to be best, I was going to push forward and going to do it, and then let the data speak for itself. Like, okay, like my behaviors were going to decrease. Like, I knew what I was going to do was going to work. And so I was just going to kind of push through some of those. So again, like good or bad, like how that always turned out or some of the reflection on leadership. I'm sure there's some conversations that they may have felt differently, but that's okay. It turned out well for me in the end. And it turned out better for my students. Looking at it for teachers, I mean, just supporting the ones who want to do it. I will support them 100%. And then that shows their success helps bring that others in who may be doubting that. And then you just build in that success with others. Maybe pull in a few things where it's not, build that comfort level up. So you can do something that's very easy that maybe they are comfortable with, and they start seeing little successes. And so then you can kind of push it a little bit further and a little bit further. But when teachers feel supported, and they their students are going to feel supported. And when their students are feeling more supported, they're going to be more engaged. So that's going to increase academic success. And so which in turn, then the teacher is going to feel better about what they're doing. And so once you get that ball rolling, it becomes very easy within your school community. And so as a leader, I'm very particular about who I find, and I target, like I will go in and support those individuals first, because then they become my leaders. And I really focus in on what they are doing, and I talk about it, and I show that, and we really show that student success to bring others along. But it's a very strategic support system that is built. But it's absolutely there. Like you bring the tools, you show exactly what strategies work. You're in the classroom with them, modeling it in everything that we do, from the cafeteria to the hallways to before school, after school, on the playground. Those techniques, those strategies, the environment that is created from the second those students get out of the car is specifically created to support every individual. And I think that's a big part of it too. It can't just be a classroom.
Absolutely.
It needs to be the library. It needs to be the cafeteria. It needs to be the playground. It needs to be everywhere for those students for all students to feel very included and supported within the school community.
So you're at a special school. It's a school of arts and knowledge, right?
Yes.
Academy of Arts and Knowledge. I don't know if it's okay for you to share, but do you have more students who think outside the box, who are a little bit more neurodivergent in your school population?
We have a very creative population.
That's what I figured.
Yes. We love to say that all of us are unapologetically ourselves. That is our tagline from our pre-K students through 5th grade to every single teacher. We're all very quirky, and we make up this amazing school community. And through that, we just personalize our education. Everybody comes there because they are just thinking a little bit different. And so whether that you come in with a different learning plan or not, we want to know, like, how are you going to learn best? And let's work with that. So we are arts integrated. So we take music, art, dance, drama, and we really integrate that into our core curriculum. So students have a lot of opportunity to be creative in what they are learning. And now we're taking that and expanding that into the STEM world as well. So really building on that engineering, math, and science aspect of it to expand to a whole new group of students. And because I feel like I love how creative we are, but we're still like missing a group that we need to like build in here. So that's kind of where we're heading next.
Oh.
But a very, very creative group that we do think differently. So that means like not only are we focusing on core instruction every single day, we do 30 minutes outside of core in ELA and 30 minutes outside of core in math. That is targeted small group instruction for every single student every single day.
Wow.
And yeah, so it's either working on those foundational skills or critical thinking skills at an individual level, so we can really figure out what they need at their individual level and move them forward for academic achievement.
Wow. And when I was reading your bio, there were so many amazing accolades. Like I know under your leadership, you earned, I think it says you earned the Performance with Distinction Award 2 consecutive years, and you were recognized by the Colorado Department of Education, a lot of awards. So whatever you're doing, it's working. Like you said, data speaks for itself, right? Everyone's happy. They're feeling safe to learn and thrive the way that they feel safe and passionate about. So I mean, gosh, you have the right formula down. Whatever you're doing.
That's what we want. We want I want every staff member to want to be there every single day. Right? If they love coming to work and they love what they're doing, then the kids are going to love being there, right? They want to work harder. And if they want to be there every single day and they love coming to school, the parents want to get them there.
Right.
And so that's the formula.
Yeah.
Like everybody wants to be there and work hard every day. There you go. You're going to get academic success.
Wow. Okay, I want to come visit your school. Next time I'm in
do.
Colorado, I'm going to be like, I was an art major, so I'm like all about the arts too.
Oh yeah. Yep. You have to come visit.
Yes. And like my parents, okay, so I totally have ADHD. My parents thought it was like a stigma. So they never got me tested and had me diagnosed because they thought it was like this bad label to have. But as an adult or as an educator, because I don't want to get bored in the classroom. So I'm thinking of all these different ways to teach my class. And so we're always like getting up, singing and dancing and moving around. And so the kids are, hopefully they're not bored. They can't say that they're bored. So I'm channeling my hyperactivity, like the hyper focus for the good, I guess, to help me. I know. So I don't have to be medicated, but I'm kind of like channeling all of that to my teaching. And I'm so glad that I'm at a school where that is welcomed and it is okay for me to do. So it's not just reading out of a textbook and teaching a certain way so that I could do crazy things and it's okay. Have you or someone faced any challenges as a neurodivergent educator? What helped overcome those challenges, and what advice would you give others facing similar situations?
Oh, of course I have. Absolutely. My passion in this area always lends itself in the realm of behavior. I've always been fascinated by it, and it's actually why I went back to school to learn more about trauma and how to support trauma in schools, and really like what we needed to do in our environment to support students. And so that area has always come with a lot of questions, and I mean, behavior is always one of those that's a hot topic in schools, and so that's been just a challenge within itself. And so one thing that we always try to work on and within our school is just the explanation of behavior is just a very gray area. I know teachers like everything to be like very black and white. Like it's this or it's this. And behavior is not. I just explain it as it's gray. It's going to be this for one kid on this day, and it's going to be this for another kid on another day. And that's kind of what we can say. So we just have to go back to finding the function and build that relationship with the student. And to overcome like those challenging situations, all I can say is just be open to learning, be open to growth, and learn from those around you. And you have to build relationship with students and with others to be successful in this area.
Relationships. That's what we preach all the time.
Yeah, that's the foundation. That's the foundation of education. That's the foundation to be successful.
Absolutely. You talked about parents earlier and how to get them on board with what you're doing at school. From your experience, how have parents or community members positively contributed to the success of neurodivergent students? And what small actions can communities take to make a big impact in supporting neurodiversity in education?
Parents are the experts on their children. So we have to value that. We have to respect that. And they are our partners. So we need to welcome them in. We need to work with them as team members. And we need to learn from them. If we can work with them as a team, it's going to benefit the student. And so we need to learn and grow together. And I don't know if parents are always valued as team members. And it can be scary as a parent coming in, like sitting with a group of professionals sitting around a table. I've sat on both sides of that table as the professional sitting around it, and then as a parent coming in to learn about my child who needed something different within the school system. And then I've also been told, like, no, there's nothing we can do. Wow. And it's like, no, I don't believe that to be true. Right. And so, like, how do we engage our parents into that conversation and use them as a resource? So I think there's a lot for schools to gain by including parents into those conversations. And then the community, having that growth mindset, looking at a community from their family community to the classroom community to the school community, to the local community. I mean, it is a creative, innovative, diverse community that we have to offer. And if you have a growth mindset, everybody has a lot to gain.
That is so true. Well, okay, Nichole, we have this segment on our podcast called Tag Your It, where our listeners write in with a question and we ask our guests this question. And this is a fun one. But if you could have a meal with one person, whether dead or alive, could be anyone, who would it be and why?
Oh, no.
You're like, oh.
No, this one is so hard. Right. Man, that is a really great question.
I watched a recent TikTok.
Yeah.
It was funny because when they asked the adults had like, oh, Mother Teresa or this person, that person. And then when they asked the kids, most of the kids said, my mom or my dad.
Oh,
like,
see.
Oh my gosh, and I cried.
I know. Like, I feel like I should have something that's really like profound.
No, it doesn't have who comes to you. No,
but truly,
anyone.
I think mine would be Quentin Tarantino, just because I'm so fascinated by all the films that he has created.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like the way that his brain works is just absolutely fascinating to me. And just behavior in general is fascinating to me, and the way people's brains work. And so, like, to have the opportunity to engage in conversation and to learn more about him and just the way that all works would just be amazing to me. So I would have to go Quentin Tarantino.
I'll send him a little DM. Nichole would like to meet with you.
No.
And I wonder what kind of student he was. Like every time I see a celebrity, like, a celebrity interview or see them out like in like public settings, I'm like, I wonder what kind of student they were.
Yeah, I know. I would love to know because Yep. So that would be mine.
I love that. Okay, Nichole, before we leave, I have one more question for you. Just like how I said, I wonder how all these celebrities were as students. How were you as a student?
I was not a really great student. I was not terrible. I was the typical elementary student. And then once I got into junior high, I had figured out that if I was like talked and messed around, I could get kicked out of class. And if I got kicked out of class, I got to go down to the office and I had a lot more fun down there, and I got to essentially be the assistant principal's like aide and got to go run errands for him.
Uh-huh.
And so I just worked very hard to get kicked out of class.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, so I spent a lot of time doing that. And then in high school, I just never got super connected, but I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be a teacher. Funny how like I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I knew I wanted to go to college. And so I did what I needed to do to get good grades, to get where I needed to be. And I did that. And so once I got accepted into college, you know, I just kind of skidded by. But once I hit college, then I excelled as a student, and I remained extremely engaged in education ever since. But I think that also helped me in my career because one, I don't remove kids from the classroom if they are acting up, because it just teaches them to leave the classroom. Like you're giving them a free ticket.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think my path ultimately helped me as an educator. But yeah, through all that, I still knew exactly what I wanted to do. And
Awesome.
I hit that college level, man. I was an awesome student. My parents were like, who are you? Like, how did this happen? They weren't thrilled to send me because they were like, I think we're going to waste our money, but they didn't. I did really, really well.
Exactly. And, you know, especially because in college, you get to choose what you study, right? Like what interests you. So that's awesome that you had that goal. You were meant to be in the principal's office from early on.
I just knew where I was going with my career.
Yeah. So you were interning starting early.
Exactly. I need to know the inner workings.
Yeah. Oh, earlier you mentioned, you know, how like we should look at teachers, how they are in the PD, like in a, you know, in any kind of like professional development setting. And then I didn't get to share this earlier, but I had a vision of if we had to tell teachers, like, put your coffee away, no drinking, you know, in the PD, close your plan book or put your phone away. Just like what we do to students all day long. Like that would, like, there would be a revolution, right? Right.
Yeah, they would not be happy. Yeah. Do not check email at all during a PD. Like they'd be like, what?
No gum, no mint, no talking to your colleagues, right?
I know. Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for being here on the Schoolyard Podcast. I look forward to learning more from you in the future, and hopefully we can have you back on the show.
I would love to come back. Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
As we conclude this vibrant episode in the Schoolyard, it's crystal clear that neurodivergent students and teachers are the architects of education that knows no bounds. With the insightful perspectives of our guest Nichole Schlagel-Hope, we've explored how creativity has no limits and unconventional thinking is a cause for celebration. From tackling challenges with resilience to fostering moments of genuine support, Nichole's stories highlight the extraordinary contributions of neurodivergent individuals. I really hope we will continue to carry forward the lessons of inclusive teaching, embracing differences, and recognizing the undeniable beauty that neurodiversity brings to our shared educational journey. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Schoolyard Podcast. Remember to pack your curiosity and meet us back in the schoolyard for our next episode. Tag, you're it! Now it's your turn to write in with a question, which we will answer here on the Schoolyard Podcast for our segment called Tag, You're It. Tag us on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter at School Specialty and hashtag Schoolyard Tag You're It with a question that you want answered. One question will be selected per episode to be answered by our featured guest and myself. If your question is chosen to be answered on the podcast, we'll send you a very special Schoolyard Podcast t-shirt. Class dismissed.